Good afternoon, everyone. So, if you agree, we can start with this first Green Heritage webinar. So, first of all, thank you for being here. My name is Franceschetto, and I'm the European Union Project Coordinator at Casa Árabe. Casa Árabe, we are a public institution dedicated to building bridges between Spain, Europe, and the Arab world, and among many other activities such as public diplomacy, conferences, cultural events, and workshops. We really work in the promotion of the Arab legacy, the legacy of Al-Andalus in Spain. We have two headquarters, one in Madrid and the other one in Córdoba. So thanks again for joining us today in this first Green Heritage Community of Practice webinar. It's great to see so many of you here. So today's webinar is organized in collaboration with Patios de la Axerquía, association based in Córdoba that works on the preservation, activation, and sustainable management of historic courtyards as living heritage. We are very pleased to have with us today three members of their team. Well, four members, because I've seen Carlos. So Gaia Redaelli, Jacinta, Ortiz, and Carlos Anaya. They are all architects. And Elsa Franceschetto, she's anthropologist. So thanks, Pax, for being here and for accepting to be present today. This first webinar is part, as you know, of the project Green Heritage. It is a Creative Europe project. And more specifically, it falls within the community of practice activities. The COP, as we call it, is an international platform for experts and practitioners working in the intersection between cultural heritage and sustainability. And Casa Árabe is in charge of leading this work package. Before we begin, this session will be recorded, but only the part delivered by PAX. The PAX presentation will be published on the project website. Second point, please mute your microphones during the presentation. And finally, after PAX presentation, we will open a Q and A session. We kindly ask you to write your questions in the chat during the presentation, and we will address them afterwards. My colleague Basma, present today from Casa Árabe, she will be in charge of taking care of that. So now it's my pleasure to give the floor to the Green Heritage Project Coordinator, Jelena Antelkovic, from the Institute of Archaeology in Belgrade, and she will briefly introduce the Green Heritage Project. After Jelena's presentation, I will come back to give a couple of details, to tell you a couple of details and information about the community of practice. And then we will jump to PAX session. So let me share my screen.
Thank you, Fran. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this very first webinar from Green Heritage Project Community of Practice. Thank you all, first our partners, for being present today. Thank all of our board members who are supporting us and who are willing to provide us future in this community of practice. And of course, thanks to all of our experts. Fran, thank you for hosting this. And Pax, thank you for delivering this very first webinar. I'm very, very happy to have such a big number of people following first webinar. So I hope that next ones will be even greater. We can go on, Fran, further. Here is just a hint of what Fran already introduced to you, and you can see the real impact of the story that will be presented today. But very shortly, I will introduce you to the project because today the floor is to our guests. And I suppose that you already informed yourself with the project Green Heritage, but here you will see that partners are more or less the old Mediterranean world. We are the very first time coordinators, one special role, and we are here working with the Ministry of Culture and specifically Archaeological Park of Ostia Antica from Italy, Makers Camp, who are very big support in this digital aspect of this project, Mapa das Ideas from Portugal. This is our very second project we are working together. Universo Primorskem from Slovenia, from Koper, and we are very, very good friends. We worked and collaborated earlier, but this is very first time in a project. Casa Arabe, I met Fran thanks to this project, and I see that this is a huge potential for future collaboration. Vazuku joined us a little bit later, but they are following everything. And Academy of Applied Studies Polytechnic, I suppose that they are also students from this academy, a very good partner also on national level. So more or less, we are a consortium that shared some valuable ideas, some goals for the future, and that is how we agreed to approach cultural heritage from this green perspective, because of course we all know that projects today need to answer questions regarding climate changes, sustainability, and etc. This is how we formed all of these, because we wanted to have different approaches, different experts gathered together, and that is exactly why in Community of Practice we are building strong community that is based on a variety of experts and professionals, helping us to learn from the past, to apply some methods from the past to be ready for the future that is coming to us. And there are a lot of warnings in present showing us the directions about what we need to think about. And since we are speaking about the future, one of the pillars of this future are the young generations, and that is one of the focuses of the project is exactly education, and why we need to educate these young generations, in this case specifically Generation Alpha, that is literally learning from digital tools and specifically from gaming. And that is why our approach consists capacity building of ourselves, interactions with community, working with stakeholders and experts, some impact in education, whether we are speaking of formal or informal education. And achieving all of these, we are trying to transform archaeological sites, heritage sites into living classrooms, and to give some good examples on first on our local, national, and then European and global level. We can go to next. So here you can see that this is very briefly what we did so far. Of course, we met all in a partners meeting in Belgrade. Very nice opportunity to see faces behind the titles and behind the names, and this is how you are making bonds. Then we organized several trainings, as I said, also within consortium, since we are all different, there are a lot of capacities to learn from each other. So MAPA in Lisbon and Makers Camp in Ostia Antica provided us very valuable trainings. Then we had several study visits in Ostia Antica and Viminatium, where we would learn and we could learn from local community, where we could learn from each other and see how we are dealing with the things on the field. For instance, this is Viminatium, and here you can see how close to excavation site is this thermal power plant. And this is exactly the motivation why we entered this project. And of course, something completely different, which we will see today, what is happening in Medina Zahra or Córdoba, with different aspects of community engagement and local community impact. This is like different facilities and different results. And finally, we can go on, Fran. In Simonov Zaliv, we visited the archaeological park, which is specific on the coast of the sea, impacted by something completely different, also related to climate change and salts. But also this is how our colleagues from Slovenia are using digital tools in presentations, which is very important for young generations, as we said. And finally, with Vazukup, we visited Cáceres, where we learned about urban heritage and how big is the impact of tourists on the one UNESCO protected, not site, but the whole. So all of these visits to first to learn from each other and to realize what is our power. Of course, the power that we are going in front of this generation alpha is the Minecraft, because we are building all of these cities and sites in Minecraft maps, and we are hoping that this will be something that can help our kids to learn about past and protection in the future. And this is where Makers Camp is helping us. And one of the achievements so far that we are very proud is Green Heritage Pedagogical Framework, that I suggest you to visit our website. It is uploaded in repository. Here is the link. You can later on copy from, I suppose that Fran will share the presentation. And also it is easily that you can find it on the website page repository. Here is where we introduced the new methodology that we provided, of course, leading by University of Primorska. All partners contributed, stakeholders contributed, and we also targeted Generation Alpha to tell us how they want to learn about heritage. This is something that is very, very big impact of this framework. And of course, community of practice, that is a legacy of this project. And we are really thankful for you for joining this, because we are hoping that this will help us to define better and to face things that are coming in front of us, challenges, issues, everything, and to find some joint solutions to be better prepared for the future, and maybe to collaborate further on some different projects that will detect exactly something that maybe here was just initiated. So one more time, this is all from me. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting us, and I hope that we will continue to collaborate.
Thank you, Jelena. So I'm going to give you a very short explanation of the community of practice. It is one of the work packages of the project, and as I said at the beginning, Casado is in charge of implementing the community of practice sessions. So last year we wrote the strategic and operational framework, and to do so we contacted with experts. I know that some of you fulfilled the online form. We did meetings with experts, and also we did a literature review of existing community of practices. The objectives are to foster knowledge exchange and capacity building, to promote interdisciplinary collaboration, the promotion of best practices and very good practices, such as the PAC's strategy in Córdoba today, to policy influence and to do advocacy with public authorities, and to engage the community, of course. So we delivered this deliverable strategic and operational framework, and the Green Heritage Community of Practice is, of course, one interdisciplinary network, international, focused on the intersection between cultural heritage and sustainability, with cross-sector collaboration at the international level, inclusive, network-based, democratic, and with a multi-level structure. So first, we have this executive board, which is composed by the consortium members. Last month we organized the first meeting with the external advisory board, and I see some of you connected today, so thank you very, very much for being here. The role of the external advisory board is to give advice on how we organize the different community of practice sessions. As we are doing today, we will organize monthly sessions, and of course it's an open member network. So, as I said, so we will organize from now until the end of the project one virtual meeting. We will do our best to organize in-person gatherings through webinars, workshops, and collaborative projects. And, of course, by the promotion of capacity building activities and peer learning. The central knowledge ecosystem is the project website. For resource sharing, we will upload training materials, content, and we have a blog and communication part dedicated to the community of practice. So for us, it's very important that you contact us if you want to organize one session, if you want to present your work within your organization, if you want to showcase a project or something, please don't hesitate to contact me, and we can schedule an online session, because we offer you this framework, this online framework, so we can share all together good practices. Finally, well, as you all fulfilled this onboarding form, so please share this onboarding form with your networks, with your colleagues, so we can reach a very big number of practitioners and experts in this community of practice. So now let's jump to the webinar. Gaia, if you want to start, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Fran, and from Casaraba. Thank you to all the partners of this fantastic network to invite us to start with this first webinar dedicated to this fantastic challenge, that is make connection and link between heritage and ecology, let me say, in general. I would like to show briefly a small video, isn't it? Thank you. Thank you very much. And so I will start sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. So let's start. We thank you for the invitation, because one of the starting point of our association is very close based from this challenge, how to understand the urban heritage as a nature-based solution. We think that in this sense there is some global problems that need local solution, and something that someone calls resilience, maybe. And in this case, Zygmunt Bauman says that maybe the city is one of the principal places where to test this local solution to global problems. In this European network of cities, we ask how much the global economy affects the local culture, or how much phenomena like justification or depopulation affect places with heritage value. Surely how we can help to create a beautiful, sustainable, and inclusive city as the new European Bauhaus asks us, or new urban agenda. And in this case, what role does urban heritage play in the city sustainability facing climate change? Maybe we can say that Venice is, for its ecological and geographical dimension, but also for the heritage value, the most interesting city in this sense. And maybe it's true that the future of the city of Venice is not only a great theme that is played in Italy and in Venice, but everywhere. And maybe trying to understand how a case study, let me say, like Venice can play a role in the future of urban heritage is not only a question of this city, fantastic for sure, but we can understand how it can identify the physical form of the city and its ethical reason, how the right of the city, the social function of the property, the work of the citizens can be their significance of being and their own project. That's what Salvatore Setti says in this fantastic book, small but fantastic, E se Venezia muore. And in the case of Córdoba, very far away from Venice, but in the same Mediterranean scale and world, let me say, we have some similar problem, even if there is no a bad situation as much as Venice has. So we are trying to think about how to combine this city and community as required by the Agenda 2030, and how can heritage take part in this condition with its ecological, economic, and social value, especially. We have three big steps. One, the first is think in our city, 300,000 inhabitants, has a city perfect, a city of 15 minutes, a urbanism of proximity, a city with a big capacity of being revegetated within its porosity, thanks to the presence of many courtyards. And third, how to do it in the co-management with the community. That is very important. In the Córdoba, maybe you know for UNESCO, so it's the most important city with these four declarations. The first, the Great Mosque that everybody knows. The second, a big part of the historic center of the city. The third, the Medina Azara that was you have been looking at also. But in this case, one of the most interesting for us is the intangible recognition by UNESCO in 2012, the Fiesta of Patio. But what is a patio? And patio is a courtyard for sure, as you know. On one side, patio is an eco-social cell, or we intend it like this, with its ecological and social value, as you can see in this Casa de Vecino, that it's a courtyard for different families. So it's not a monofamiliar building, but it's multifamiliar with this very typical Mediterranean typology. But now then, after the declaration of UNESCO, we received 1 million tourists in 2 weeks, so it's like an invasion. So patio is been in the last years considered much more than an eco-social cell, a marketplace. So for us, our first goal is in our small dimension as association with this. Oh, I'm sorry. Something, yes, made by architects and anthropologists, is the enhancement of the consolidated city in its different dimensions, promoting urban rehabilitation and housing strategies through social innovation processes. We are very glad to be part of the Faro Convention network of the Council of Europe, because it's an important network where we can learn very much about other experiences in that pan-European space that it's the Council of Europe. Unfortunately, we were awarded in 2022 by Europa Nostra European Heritage Award and Creative Heritage in Action by Eurocity Good Practice, and last, the Bienal Iberoamericana. All the things for us are very important because we are very small. We are few persons, but we belonging to a big network that you consider an ecosystem. But for us, this recognition and award are important to share this strategy or this concept of the cultural heritage and urban heritage as a common good on the local and on the global scale. Most of all, PAX has three big strategies where we are managing what we can do, let me say. The first is the most related to your project. So how consider the urban ecology and the energy transition within the patio as an ecological system of the Mediterranean city, and especially of the Islamic city, as in the case of Córdoba, and this connection and this continuity between public space and courtyards. It's not only, as we said before, it's not only a question of Córdoba. This is a fantastic model of a porch and a garden in in Metropolitan Museum of Art, that is representing only the void, the interior of this courtyard, Egyptian courtyard in as a garden. I think it's very beautiful because it doesn't represent the building, it's only representing the void. That's one of the first step that we want to talk about in this workshop. The second next is that we link, or we underline and highlight the important to consider heritage not only as building but as urban sector, and also its relation with the geography and the tangible and also intangible. It means human being that give life to our heritage. And the third element that I think is quite interesting in this case is that we overlap the concept of housing, related for sure to the Casa de Vecino and to courtyards as multifamiliar families house, as we were saying before, with an instrument, a tool that is the housing cooperative as a social and solidarity economy institution or element or tool, let me say, to recover and reuse and to update this structure of staying in one house but with different families sharing the common space that is the courtyard itself. So it's an instrument of the legal and economical instrument that allow us to update and rehabilitate and reuse and rehabit some of these fantastic places that history gave us and the UNESCO declared like heritage. So how and what are we doing in this laboratory that we consider Córdoba? We have these four axes: dissemination, training, creation, and research. The first, dissemination, is one of the most interesting for me, because we are not only giving lectures, taking part in conferences, but we are all the time working with social association, neighborhood association. We are doing each year we do a meeting, an important international meeting called Faro in the Patio, just to underline the importance of the Faro Convention Network for us, not only for the housing, but in general for the urban heritage. All we are doing these days, we are finishing a film about the women that live alone in the historical part of the city. Another nexus is very important for us is training. So that means to include young people in all this issue, in all this challenge, because surely in these two fields, we always are moving between different fields, but one of the most important for us is architecture and in anthropologism. It means people and it means places, so it's very important for us to include and work with the university, with students, and especially giving them the opportunity to make a training period within PAX association. One of the most important also is creation, because we think that surely we have to think, and we know that we want to be facilitator of this connection between university, public administration, and civil society. But then we want to do things. We want to apply our knowledge if we can. So the creation, it means that we try to do this challenge to rehabilitate buildings within the local community. So the first pilot is, let me say, a beautiful history of the park's patio, because it was the first most important building presented for the UNESCO Declaration of Intangible Heritage. That's the image of this building that is in the middle of the Axerquía neighborhood. Then it became in this degradation of the and depopulation of the historical city. When in the 80s there were 18 families living there, just one person, one woman in 2018 was living there in the condition that you see in this image. And in the first local lab that we did, the first cooperative group was created, and they decided to start the renovation within our association. And so in 2022, in only 4 years, and it's quite interesting, we could rehabilitate the building with this first cooperative network that is the member are 6 families within children that want to share the space for the educational meaning that it is and it represents. So it's a housing cooperative with 6 family, 1 cooperative. So we maintain the unicity and the unity of the building, but we have the right of use of the 6 flats, let me say, in one project that is not a project of a building, it's also a project of life, let me say. In this case, we adapt the desire of these families to the existing building, trying to respect, for sure, the heritage value and to update it to the contemporary condition and necessity as the ones that these people has, like they are young people. One of the most interesting thing also is surely the design of the courtyard itself, as this for its porosity and for its capacity to be revegetated, as I was saying before, studying the traditional Mediterranean and Islamic vegetation. So we want to adopt it and integrate this ecological condition of the courtyards inside the building, as you can see in this image. And so that's some images when we finish the renovation. It's more or less 1 million euros of renovation without any public help. So it was just a connection between our association and the cooperative Pax Astronauta. We try to reuse whatever we found there. So it's important also to reuse things and material so that it's like a circular economy or circular ecology of the same building that is building on itself as a phoenix. And in this case, as I was saying before, the vegetation is just one of the most important things for us, but because it go in parallel with the happiness of the children who are living there. But it's very much it's bigger. The vegetation is incredibly stronger. Also, this revegetation has been the occasion to make a classroom and group of people, young people and children, to understand the value of the eco-social value of the courtyards. In this case, we are now trying to reproduce the model, as you can see here, in something that we call like a network of Pax Cooperative. It's not so simple, but in this case, we are trying to create with other cooperatives in this sense. And last, to give the floor to my colleagues, the four things that we are trying to do is making research in order to understand if this strategy is able to have an impact on one sense in the city of Córdoba, and if it's possible to scaling up the strategy to other cities, similar cities. So we have been member from 2022 until 2025 in a Horizon 22 project in Habit that is as partner. So it's very interesting for us because we have been able to use capacity that the Horizon allow for study for cities like Córdoba, Luca, Riga, and Nitra to understand as inclusive health and well-being in small and medium-sized cities. In the case of Córdoba, the participation of PACs has been based on the premise that cultural heritage can provide valuable insight to promote inclusive health and well-being thanks to the courtyards. And in this sense, it's very related to this webinar because the knowledge accumulated over time through traditional patio as culture that belongs to the memory of the city and its citizens in the Casas de Vecino is in the historic city of Córdoba is associated with practices belonging to history and centuries and can be for us regarded as a nature-based solution itself. So this provides valuable knowledge for addressing contemporary environmental and social challenges, such as climate change, biodiversity loss, social isolation, and the deterioration of human well-being. So in this case, Cordova for us is an heritage lab, and the courtyards as eco-social net are the best way to promote the city as a human garden in the future. So let me just finish with this first presentation with this image, just to see that the patio by the first patio, as you can see, it's really an eco-social cell, as you can see in this image. Thank you very much, and I give the floor to my colleagues, Jacinta and Elsa, that will enter deeper in the project Horizon 2020 that we were talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaia.
Have you seen the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, as Gaia has said, Elsa and I will explain the PAC's contribution to the Inhabit project. Let me show you briefly. Let me show you briefly the historic center of Córdoba from a particular point of view. The presence of these inner gardens and courtyards in the city. In Córdoba, this Pan-Muslim fabric that appears very compact from the street reveals an important porosity and rich interior of spaces and social relationships, as I have said before, which occasionally kick out to the exterior. The system of interior open spaces has in Córdoba a substantial relevance that turns the city into an absolutely porous fabric. And this definition of urban green space is the way we consider the green system of the historical city of Córdoba, understanding not only the public spaces, but also these inner open spaces that works directly for its communities, but also indirectly for all the citizens. In this sense, we can say that it reached the role of a real public space. In this research, the patio is analyzed as a single eco-social cell, but it's always considered as a part of this urban network. In fact, the surveys we carry out in this research on patio houses reveal how the patios are used by its inhabitants in a very similar way as people use the urban parks, according to the study I showed you at the left. In the patios, the most frequently mentioned activities were plant care, reading, and other activities related to relax, and playing, exercising, gathering with friends appears in very similar percentage in both types of green spaces. So the inner system of open spaces is a first level tool for the implementation of a greener city, more sustainable and resilient. Taking into account these courtyards, these patios, we have briefly analyzed some urban indicators. The first one we have analyzed is proximity of the population to green spaces. That is one of the 10 common European indicators published by the European Commission. The proximity to green spaces of different size and different functions. In the case of green spaces for everyday life, it is not the same to consider only public spaces, as the slide I show you, with blue circles of 200 meters, than to incorporate unique interior spaces, as for example, summer cinemas. They are a specific typology of big, open, inner spaces of natural earth and soil that are frequently used in summer for population, and they are spaces with a high social value, and it's part of our cultural heritage. Also, if we take into account public buildings or religious buildings, the achievement of this index change in a very important way. The other index that we have analyzed here is the soil biotic index. This index indicates the relationship between the areas of significant activity in the natural soil cycle and the total area of the analysis. This type of soil, we know, has a crucial relevance in plant and animal life development, and of course in the mitigation of the urban heat island effect and air pollution. Again, the presence of courtyards and the possibility of implementing green strategies from them can have a very important role. So once we have highlighted the urban importance of the system, the research focuses on the courtyard as a unitary element, an ecosocial cell. The general objective of this research is based on the premise that cultural heritage of courtyard houses in Córdoba works on an ecosocial cell in which the combination of natural elements, vegetation, water, shade, or permeable pavement, and social practice associated with their care and shared use generate important well-being benefits that we can compare with recognized nature-based solutions. They represent a unique example of an urban typology that integrates social and environmental characteristics with the potential to propose innovative solutions to the challenge we face. Challenge, obviously, as climate change, biodiversity loss, or social isolation. The patios constitute a unique urban typology that combines these social and environmental qualities and offer this potential in this key question: which patios are relevant to inclusive health and well-being, and how are they integrated into contemporary urban practice? These are the specific objectives: to identify practice that promote well-being and comfort in the courtyards of Córdoba, to assess environmental comfort conditions, and to analyze the residents' perception of comfort. Based on the empirical analysis of 24 courtyard houses in which live 87 people, the work combines quantitative and qualitative methodologies to examine how spatial morphology, microclimatic conditions, and community dynamics contribute to generate more resilient and habitable urban environments. Consider again the courtyard not as an only element, but as part of an interconnected urban system. The 24 courtyards under study have been selected based on a combination of two key parameters in their environmental behavior. The first one is the soil permeability, classified in high, medium, or low presence of inner material. The second one, the presence and type of vegetation, either in pots or rooted in the ground. Combining criteria A and B, 6 study categories were identified, with a minimum of 2 courtyards in each category. We have also given priority to ensure a diverse range of users in terms of number and profile, age, gender, education, type of family, etc. We have implemented a system of monitoring data with 3 transmitting antennas in public buildings with LoRaWAN system that transmit the data to our platform. One of these antennas has been located in Casa Árabe in Córdoba. 24 patios in the historical city that has been monitored, and it has been described and represented in its main item, and 4 types of sensors installed in each courtyard. At the end, 104 sets of sensors finally installed.
You hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
So the participants we work with in the patio are predominantly university-educated adults, aged 34 to 79, with a higher proportion of women than men, and representing diverse employment statuses. Yes, Jacinta. Yes, thank you. Majority of participants live in single-family patio houses, but we work with 1 building is unused and 2 buildings serve as community facilities or equipment. It's interesting here to note that social activities historically took place in multifamily patio courtyards, now less common, and that their social uses are recognized and celebrated by the UNESCO 2012 Intangible Cultural Heritage designations, which acknowledges Courtyard Festival, Festival de los Patios, as a community event providing identity and continuity for Córdoba residents, but as says Gaia before, more and more touristic too. So we work with primary informants where the residents of the patios included in the study, and secondary informant, the broader community of Córdoba, providing additional insights. This approach allows us to capture both direct experiences of patio residents and perceptions from the wider urban community. In the study, we used a combination of social research methods, survey, interview, questionnaires, and oral stories too, to capture well-being, social and ecological dimensions of the patio. We also collected narratives to understand the historical evolution and symbolic meaning of these patio, these courtyards. So we administered a questionnaire to the residents of all 24 patios in the study. The goal was to assess their perception of comfort, particularly thermal comforts within their homes. By collecting this information across different seasons in 2025, we aim to correlate the indoor environmental conditions with how the occupants actually feel, providing a direct link between measured climate data and personal experience. So, for example, here it was in spring, surveys and simultaneous meteorological measurements conducted over 1 spring day The data collected on site in the patio and in the house of the people from late morning to 2 p.m. Indoors or in shaded courtyard areas with the participant from 6 courtyards. It represents the 6 typology of the study of the patio, selected by availability, and typology. The questionnaire was short and simple, taking about 5 to 10 minutes, and it was divided into various parts: personal characteristics, perception of thermal comfort and well-being, and use specific factors such as the, for example, the use of shading devices or water management. So yes, we ask, for example, here to participants while inside their homes how their comfort will improve if certain environmental conditions changed. So this type of question helps us to directly link the indoor conditions like temperature, humidity, sunlight, airflow to the occupant's perception of comfort at that moment.
For analyze the data of sensors, turning to ambiental analysis, for analyze the data of sensor, we have used the PET index. It's a bioclimatic index that measures how climatic conditions are perceived by humans in terms of thermal comfort. We have synthesized the data provided by the sensor, air temperature, humidity, wind velocity, and solar radiation through this PET index. As you know, comfort is a subjective perception and depends not only of this physical data, but also depends so much on personal parameters. This is a key point of our research, to compare sensor data perception of comfort from users. And that's why both the questionnaire and the survey are carried out at the same time that we have collected the data of the sensor. These are the 6 categories, different categories of courtyard. And this is part of the first results. The results get from environmental monitoring confirm that the historic courtyards in Córdoba works as nature-based solution. They are able to highly improve thermal comfort during the months of greatest climatic stress, from May to September. In particular, patio categories with greater vegetation, permeable soil, also water features as fountains, farms, or irrigation systems show better PET values, demonstrating their capacity to mitigate summer overheating. This is a summary of the 6 categories, different categories of courtyards, and the PET index behavior in each of them. In a summer day, the types C2 with fruited vegetation have the better performance. Nevertheless, a comparative analysis of courtyards within the same category reveals something we already know. Pre-existing structural parameters, such as orientation, the height-to-area ratio, and the courtyard's geometry have a significant influence in the recorded thermal comfort. In the context of historical heritage, these variables are essentially fixed, as they are linked to a protective architecture. So this condition reinforces the strategic role of factors that can be transformed by users, such as vegetation, water, permeable soil, or movable shade. They are different adaptive layers capable of compensating for more prejudicial geometric configurations. So the more limited the possibilities for architectural intervention, the greater the relative weight of these MVS and the practices associated with their care and use share. Elsa?
Yes. So as we just saw, adaptive elements like vegetation and shade can help compensate for less favorable climate or heat climate. And building on this, let's look at the specific practices in the patios that improve well-being. Almost all the courtyards contain vegetation varying by typology, but this greenery not only cools the home but also supports both physical and psychological well-being. So all participants, for example, consider having access to private greenery important, and most can see a green space directly from their home through the patio. Yes, here we can see that between the importance of some elements in this space, it can among the option water, biodiversity, shade, rooted vegetation. The majority of participants rated rooted vegetation as very important, reinforcing its key role in supporting both these two aspects of psychological and physical well-being in the courtyards. We also looked at how contact with green spaces affect residents' perception of well-being. So many residents report positive effects of green space on cognitive, emotional, and psychological well-being. And in addition of there's two aspects. Green spaces clearly promote a sense of community and belonging. And few residents use these areas, for example, of patio for social interaction, and they said a lot that it promoves meeting neighbors or participating in shared activity in these places, which strengthens communities and reinforces a shared sense of identity. So this is a testimony that illustrate here with neighbors, one participant of the 24 patios, to illustrate the sense of community. This woman shared that together with her neighbors, they have been watering the existing trees in the neighborhood twice a week. 1 year because the city council hadn't done so in recent years. So they take turns, bring horses and use the Axerquía. And this example shows how residents actively care for their green space, reinforcing both communities and personal well-being too. So the interest in the mentioned practices for regulating the house's temperature is directly linked to the thermal comfort of the patio house inhabitants. And among this practice, we highlight the following. That we can see, yes, the use of water, ventilation, care among neighbors, toilets in the courtyards, and so on. And this is an illustration of some pictures that we identify in the interviews too. No, there's a practice that enhance physical and psychological well-being, and the residents also use active and passive strategy, to regulate temperature throughout the years in both summer and winter. And so we can say that patio houses can be understood in two ways. First, as an habitat, the physical space itself, whether popular or communal. And second, as a habitus that's reflecting the lifestyle, daily routines, and cultural practices of the people who live there. Through their everyday activities, residents contribute to key intangible values such as collective participation, emotional well-being, intergenerational living too, and for example, the transmission of traditions, which are what make these spaces, these patios, so culturally significant and recognized by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage.
So maybe, as my colleague said, in this sense, we wanted to demonstrate with this research completely, but also with our action on the field, that there is something that belongs to the history of the city of Córdoba, but then there is a reality in this moment, in special related to the problem of touristification that is changing some balances inside the city and inside its memory. But then there is a future. So the possible scenario of Córdoba 2050 can be underlined with this study to scaling from the recuperation and rehabilitation in the case of the first patio. But if we think that can be a network, and it is, we think really it is. If we think at Córdoba 2050, maybe it could be in the future revegetated places, you then important resilience both on the social dimension and on the ecological one. Thank you.